Hello, friends. We are coming to you on location from
It's sunny.
Palm Desert.
It's dry. Yes, you can see behind us. We've been here for a little while visiting some family. So
Yeah,
we thought we would take a moment to do a message on the desert. Well, not really the desert, but
yeah, but kind of.
kind of.
Because we got here, and of course, there's very exciting for us.
Really, what's neat is they seem dead, but they're just dormant.
Yeah,
And it's so weird because it's completely opposite of what we're used to back in the Midwest, where things need water, they need, particular, not this environment.
yeah, that's the thing. It's not just new species. Because, of course, we came out here and what's this? What's this? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And there's all these miraculously cool forms and shapes.
So neat.
And but, but more than that, recognizing that, yeah, all these are adapted to a completely different environment. Pretty much any plant I can think of from our lands, if we put it in the soil here,
It
it'd
would
be
die.
dead pretty quickly.
It'd die.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's really unbelievable to think that the plants and the animals that live in this environment, you know, they're things that they love. If we took some of them and put them where we are, obviously, naturally, once winter hit, boom, they'd be dead. But they might get too much water,
Yeah.
right? Not enough heat. And so it's just kind of crazy to think about the way things shift with their environments.
Yeah. Plants adapt to environments from Arctic to, well, tropics,
Desert,
desert.
yeah.
But, interestingly, I guess the Antarctic is classified as a desert.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that makes total sense. So I kind of think human beings can do the same thing.
Yeah. I think we're really special in the sense that
Are you getting poked? Does this have
there's,
pokies on it?
no, I'm okay.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of attacking me a little. I'll have to come
Oh,
close and
no,
then,
no, not closer
yeah,
to
and
me.
it almost seems like our magic superpower is adaptation, where a lot of these plants, the plant world has adapted to different places. Humans have adapted through their tool use and such to all environments basically on the
Yeah,
planet. We
that's
met
crazy.
somebody the other day who had spent time in Antarctica.
Yes.
And yeah, and obviously people live in deserts and for extensive times in submarines under the sea and
All
pretty
kinds of
amazing.
crazy things. I guess I what this makes me think of is the difference between adaptation and habituation. Do you want me to move over a little
No,
bit?
no, no.
No, why do you say that? And habituation. Or I guess I'm thinking adapt versus habit. Because adaptation seems to be where you get used to something, but so does having a habit. And habits can be good, but in some ways, I think the environments that we allow ourselves to adapt to also can be detrimental. So, adaptation, especially when you think of the desert plants, means that you're going to thrive, you're going to survive, and you're going to do really well. But sometimes I think for humans, we've allowed ourselves to get used to environments that are not healthy for us. And I'm not sure that that's good adaptation.
I think that's the trick with us humans, right? Is that because we can adapt, humans can get used to anything. And when we're in our current normal, it seems like any other normal is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But then, you think of someone taken as a prisoner of war and they're put into a concentration camp, and some of those people manage to adapt to that. I think of Viktor Frankl here, specifically,
Yeah.
who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and finding ways to, if not thrive, to at least adapt well to conditions that, from your former point of view, never would have been even
Yeah.
imaginable as something that a human being could live in. And of course, in a more everyday sense, when we look around us, there's people that come to this place and they want to go out and see the bars and the casinos.
And the nightclubs.
Yeah,
And yeah.
which to us would feel like I don't know. I'd probably just not be able to handle it.
It's not our soil, and uh, it's not our
Right.
ecosystem.
Where this is, but
Mm,
when, being out in nature,
yeah.
this is what we thrive on. But remembering, probably if we wanted to, or if our life circumstances changed, we could adapt and learn to love the nightclubs and the casinos and the bars. It seems
Wow.
unimaginable, right?
The word love seems a little strong, but maybe given
Yeah.
enough years of evolution,
Yeah,
I'm trying
I
to think
think,
how many I would need. Not that I think those things are bad. They're for me, those kinds of things could be fun in small doses. Um, I like dancing, so like I can see, I can try to relate because
yeah,
partially what we want to do is be able to relate to one another as human beings on this planet. But I do think we want to make good choices too, because if we can adapt to anything and we allow habits to form, if we don't think about that, then we are, in a sense, we're always training our brain and we're always training our bodies. And that to me seems like we're constantly adapting. And we need to be conscientious of that. To me, that seems where Divine Mother's role comes in things, is if I can bring her into the equation and ask for communication with her about what is a good path for me to take, what feels good within me, whether that's emotionally or physically or socially. If I can form a good receptivity with her and a kind of an open curiosity, then I feel as though I could better adapt, because life is like the Baskin Robbins 31 flavors. In this day and age, there's so many things that we can do and choose to adapt to. And I think sometimes we even go in on autopilot blindly because there's all of our cultural momentum and we don't realize that. And so, how do we want to adapt? What kind of a creature being do we want to be in? What ecosystem do we want to live in if we get a choice? And that's where, for me, calling in Divine Mother is sort of the key element of success.
yeah. Gosh, I think when we look at this, it makes us, well, it helps me at least, also to realize that you talk about those 31 flavors, that people come in these 31 flavors. They come in all these different preferences. Maybe we couldn't come to love the nightlife scene here, but it could conceivably, it's very hard for me to conceive of it, but it could conceivably become our normal, the thing we do. And when we look at the people around us, it's often easier to see in other people than in ourselves. But when we look at the people around us, often we'll see, oh, they have a normal that is, it's what they're choosing, it's what they want. And we might not think it looks healthy, or we may not think it looks like it's nourishing for them, but they're uncomfortable without it.
Mm.
They want that normal that is their everyday thing that they've adapted to or habituated to. And that can help us, I think, to understand other people, because it's easy to judge other people and say, oh,
Right.
they do this all the time, and what a waste of time and
X, Y,
energy.
Z. Yeah.
That's their normal. That's the soil that they've adapted to. And then to hearken to what you're saying, it calls us to be really conscious and to look and say, my normals.
Mm.
Have I chosen normals that are nourishing?
Yeah.
Or have I developed these habits or these normals that aren't really serving me, aren't really serving the world, aren't really bringing me closer with Divine Mother?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's one of the fun things about out here is that a lot of creatures hide in these plants that look totally dead and they're just super scrubby. And then you get up close and out puffs a bird or a jackrabbit.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, really fun. You never know. There could be animals all around us.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a really good thing to remember that when we're talking about habits and adaptation, that we make it personal to us, because there are going to be people who are going, how can you be standing out in the trees and they're touching you and there's bugs and there's just actually not bugs, but the idea of nature is kind of icky, and that's definitely not their soil. And to think there's one right soil is to assume that this plant can grow anywhere in the world. And I think we need to realize that it's okay for people outside of us to have different ways of being, and to realize that we may have ways of being that we haven't examined that aren't helpful for us. And so to be considerate, kind, thoughtful, compassionate when dealing with other people, knowing that if we were asked to, hey, go do, 18 rounds of golf, and I'm not saying golf is bad, it'd be outside, but I don't know how to play, pick something that is foreign to you. How would you react? So that kind of understanding, and then maybe taking it into, okay, let's just make this about my journey, right?
Mm-hmm.
And calling in Divine Mother and saying, Divine Mother, help me have more awareness of how I respond to things that come in. Let me look at my soil. Let me look at the environment I've given myself to live in. And that can be very eye opening, because sometimes you can realize, wow, the environment that I'm in now is not the one I would choose necessarily. And sometimes it's minor tweaks, but sometimes it might be something larger. And I know for me, I can start to judge myself. Oh, why are you like this, Rebecca? How come oh, you're here again with this thought? And maybe that's me, but maybe it's also that I've allowed myself to get into an environment or an ecosystem, mentally or physically, socially, that isn't doing me well. And so stopping and inviting Divine Mother in to help me see more clearly.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I love that it helps us have compassion and understanding for other people and calls us to self-observation. Because it takes a lot of mental energy that we could spend for being present to judge others and to feel like, why are they making these decisions? It's
Mm-hmm.
especially difficult when it's, for instance, a child, someone you love, or a really good friend
Yeah.
that then makes a choice that you think is really a bad choice.
Yeah.
But you see that they're not going to deviate from that choice. And when you see that they're not going to deviate from that choice, maybe a person that you don't think they is going to make a good companion or friend for them,
Or taking a job
job,
that
yeah.
really doesn't seem right for them. Yeah.
And then you can just stew over it, right?
Yeah. And then
Yeah,
you're
all
right. You're
right.
not wasting, but you're not spending your time on the present moment in the same
Yeah.
way.
So recognizing that's that person's journey and exploration. You can always voice your concerns and your thoughts, but then calling and saying, how much energy am I spending on a daily basis?
Yeah.
Sometimes a moment to moment basis, fretting or worrying about this thing that I currently cannot really
Right.
control.
Right. And then you have to look and say, they live in a different ecosystem right now than I do. And they are coming from a whole different environment from which they are making their decision. And so that may be very difficult for them to see outside of that at the current moment. It doesn't mean people can't change. Obviously, we
Mm-hmm.
can adapt, but sometimes adaptation and changing habits takes time. That's why starting with yourself is really great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's the hardest and most important place
Yeah.
to start. Because, boy, I think any of us can probably look at our lives and say, this is a place where I have developed a habit, a way of being, I've adapted to something. Sometimes it's a couple and they've just adapted
Mm,
to these little ways of bickering and gnawing at each other. And because it's become normal, it's not even seen
right.
anymore. It might be dietary habits where I'm just in the habit of just eating some kind of junk food that
Well, I'm
doesn't
sitting in
really
front of the screen.
it doesn't really serve me right. And
Yeah.
I know it's not what I really want to be doing. So if we call ourselves to say, hey, I have this power of adaptation, as hard as it is to recognize, if I have the power to maybe adapt to something that right now sounds like it would be heck on earth, then maybe I also have the power to adapt to making a smaller shift in my
Mm-hmm.
lifestyle that brings me into more consciousness, that brings me into more vitality and well being, that brings me just closer to Divine Mother,
Mm-hmm.
so that I'm not spending my time in a way that I'm going to look back and go, oh,
Yeah.
gosh, I wish I would have lived yesterday a little bit differently or a lot differently.
That's important. I think that ability to imagine yourself reflecting back and asking yourself, okay, if I'm in the future and I'm going to reflect back to this moment, is there a different choice I would want to make? And I really believe that changing who we want to be um, is very doable. It's just that we need to do micro mini. It's like micro mini doses.
Mm.
So that instead of thinking, okay, I want to get in shape, that's this huge, big thing. Even going, okay, this is my exercise on Monday, this is my exercise on Tuesday. It's great to have little goals that equal a larger goal, but how about in this moment? How about just right now? Someone's inviting me for a walk. I'm going to say yes. How about just in this moment, am I going to take the elevator or the stairs? It's all the little tiny micro decisions that we make repeatedly every
Mm.
moment that lead us to all of a sudden being different. So I think it's really important to remember. I like to call in Divine Mother, and I like to think of instead of a big relationship with Divine Mother, moment to moment.
Mm.
Are you here in this moment with me? Okay, pray for a moment. Gosh, wow, I'm grateful for this. Or, hey, help me be a little bit more considerate because I'm talking to this person that is growing in a different environment than I am. And those micro moments of just right now, this is all I'm doing. This is the one moment I make my choice. This is the one moment that I call Divine Mother in, or whatever it is that you want, instead of trying to wrap our heads around this great, big, gigantic thing.
Mm.
Yeah.
So, share your thoughts, your ideas
Yeah.
about this.
Do you feel that there are helpful ways in which to be able to reflect on your life that you live? Because we're here visiting in a different environment completely, and that can help you sometimes pull back away from your life and look and say, oh, wow, what I really love about this experience is I'm spending way more time in nature than I usually do, and it really fills me up. So when I go back, I want to add more of that. Or you might say, wow, I really love this about being at home, and I want to really focus on more of that.
Mm.
So I'm curious, what are ways that you feel that you can start to notice how you have formed habits and how you can pay attention to what those are, and then ways that you found that help you to craft a different idea of who you are?
All right, friends, beloveds, thank you for watching, being with us today,
Yeah, really grateful.
and we'll look forward to talking with you in the comments.